Episode of Clouds of Meaning with your host Tabantlaka. Today I'm sitting with an author, a speaker, and the founder of Creative Minds and Projects, an organization aimed at instilling innovative and creative thinking in the lives of young people to help inspire a purpose-driven lifestyle. Mr. Leroy Tau, welcome. So how are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I've got your book here. So I haven't had the honor and the pleasure of going through it. So I hopefully we'll talk about that as well. So I suppose maybe the first question to ask is for people who don't know you, who is Leroy Tau? Not the author, not the speaker. Who are you?
A very interesting question.
Yeah, because you like talking about those things.
Who are you?
Yeah.
I try to shy away from impressive introductions.
Sure.
I grew up in Soshanguve. I'm Leroy Tau.
Sure.
Lesotho is my other name. I'm a simple, down-to-earth, I think purpose. I just love seeing change and knowing that I could be used as a tool to bring about different perspective to people's perceptions.
Sure.
So in simple definitions, I'm just that guy who just loves to make sure that people know that they too deserve to be great.
Yeah. But where does that love? Because I'm also hearing a bit of humility because you don't like these fancy.
That you flew somewhere and a platform and so and so.
And then you get caught out. But where does then your interest come from? Where did you this interest in seeing people live purpose-driven lives, finding their purpose, and where does that come from?
I think the greatest gift that my parents gave me was exposing me to salvation, an environment where I could know Jesus Christ for myself. And because I think that it was the foundation of salvation that brought about this need to want to explore a world outside my world. That drive that drives you to know that there is a reason why I'm here. Since somebody is responsible for the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the turning of the earth, and the universe, and everything in it. It means, and if you understand that He's omniscient, He knows all things at all time. He did not just put me here for the sake of filling space. So that thing comes from a place of always having this desire to want to know, this desire to want to grow. But you realize that you cannot grow yourself. You grow in the presence of other people who have been to spaces and know things that you do not know. And then growing up Kokas, you would understand that there are very few elements of influence that a boy child could look up to. So I just wanted to be that guy, that because I learned that growth comes as a result of exposure, so that you push yourself to get experiences beyond the experiences that you would normally get where you grew up. So in coming back to that very place that because you will never become anything you've never seen. So if you can be used as a tool for somebody to see you, Ramara, if God could do it for people like Leroy, He can do it for some of us. And then it becomes more inspiring when you grow up with people who especially know your tendencies. So for me, it's I think it's first for me than it is about everyone else. But then you realize that when you live an inspirational life, and it affects the other people around you, you start noticing people who say, can you mentor me? And the purpose was not to become a mentor. The purpose was literally just for you to become this great individual that you envisioned yourself to be. So it is in the growth process that now you want to include others, because a gift not shared is just pure selfishness at the end of the day.
So you touch on your Christian roots, you talk about your parents, so your influences then, so who are the people who influenced you? Who are the people influencing you now? Who are the people you want to influence?
At the back of my thingy, I studied. My spiritual mentor is Dr. B.W. Makwakwa. But I grew up listening to people like T.D. Jakes, and I mean, I think there's a lot of us who can point to T.D. Jakes, but then it is in this discovery process that you listen to all these messages, and then you realize that there are people that you can take from, and there are people that you can listen, and there are people that no, not that one, this one. So you have spiritual leaders. You have then you realize that you need to be a balanced product. You gotta have psychological leaders, and so I transitioned from your T.D. Jakes to your Noel Jones, because now then you realize that he's not just spiritual in his presentation, but he brings in a whole lot of psychological element, and then which now grows you to another point of understanding that that growing spiritually is one thing, but having a balance of psychology in your spiritual growth helps you to be a rational being. So you are not spiritually irrelevant, you are spiritual relevant, because now you realize that though you are saved from a spiritual point of view, there's a whole lot of psychological issues that you need to deal with. So imagine being born again at the age of 25, then that means it's 25 years of psychological implications that you need to deal with. So overnight you are saved, you lift up your hands and you are saved, you become born again, you are a new creature, but in real essence the psychological element that make you are still there, and they are not. That's why you need to work on your spiritual well-being and your psychological well-being as well. That's why they like to say that it's possible to be delivered and not healed. It's possible to be saved and not healed.
But I mean, what would you say to people who say that? I mean, there's those two clash, psychology and the spiritual world. You get a lot of people who say to you, so you must just pray, you must pray, and all these things, talking to professionals and psychology is bad, especially if you're African. It's like there are people who say stuff like that. And how would you respond to people who say things like that?
You see, when everything that the church doesn't own, it crucifies and it damages and it dismisses off. And they forget that a human being is divided into three parts. I mean, you are spirit, you possess a soul, and you live in a body. You go to gym for the sake of keeping fit and being healthy. You read for the sake of having a proper intellectual standpoint. And you go to church to feed the spirit man that is in you. And another problem here is that when you get saved, your spirit is automatically taken care of. But you need to come to a place where theology and psychology are intertwined, because you can, as much as your spirit lives and influences your soul needs to reach out to your spirit, and your spirit needs to reach out to your soul. So the body cannot operate in and of itself, the mind cannot operate in and of itself, and the spirit cannot operate outside of the mind and the body. So any preaching or any theology that fails to address the necessity of psychology in its presentation is a theology that leaves its receivers impaired from a thinking perspective, because it takes away your ability to think for yourself. That's why now you have a lot of people who are waiting for the Lord to do it for them. You have a lot of people who say Mudimo Murutis Mama. It's because now you have taken away the right to think, the right to be a creative individual, and now you are this spiritual being that is irrational and irrelevant. That is why we don't have a lot of Christian innovators, we don't have a lot of Christian influencers and philosophers, because a lot of us are so high in the spirit and so low in our psychological capacity that we fail to infect the very issues in our day-to-day living. I mean, you getting up today, you waking up today knowing that you need to take a bath, that was not, you are a spiritual person, but that was not a spiritual act. It is something that the mind knows you have to do. So the church needs to go back to the basis of understanding that yes, we are saved, and when the day you got saved, the Lord did not take away your brain, he left you with it, because it is critical for your growth, and it's critical for what he wants to do with you. I mean, when we talk about issues of revelation, you read the Bible and revelation pops up. The Lord gives you an idea idea, and he plants it in your brain. But you have to have a library of books to feed from to expand the revelation, because the reality here is that you have a lot of pastors who are passionate about revelation that is not fed by knowledge at the end of the day. So when it is received, it's something that is not cooked. So when revelation comes, it needs to fall in a mind that is already read. You know, it's easier to preach to a congregation of people who read than a congregation of people who don't read.
But how is it? So when as you were talking now, I was just thinking about the state of the church, the mindset actually of so let's say Christian people in the country. We just had elections not so long ago, and people were saying, you know, when this Bible came, we closed our eyes, they gave us the Bible, and the land was taken away, and therefore on the one side, so church is something that's irrelevant because of what we are doing politically. Then secondly, like the things that are happening in churches where they say people are, you know, they're drinking things, they're eating things. So I'm just now interested in the mindset that's sort of prevailing in the country. What do you think is happening? What do you think people are thinking? Why are we where we are in terms of the church and thinking?
I think we are where we are because the church has become proclaimers of the way that they don't live. We are good in talking love and not living love. We are good in talking forgiveness and not living this forgiveness element. So now I always, to answer your question, I always ask this question when I'm asked to go and preach, that if the government would come with the military and the police and everyone and stand outside the church and call out everyone on a Sunday, and the authorities declare that as of this day we are shutting down this church, will the community around the church revolt and say, no, go close other churches, not this one, because this particular church is of community relevance? You understand? So a lot of churches are self-serving, a lot of Christians are self-serving, because the love of God that is preached does not bend in our hearts, because if it had truly bend in our hearts, we would see in how we treat one another. I tell you now that the church has become the last place to go to when you are in trouble, even as a Christian, and that on its own is a problem. You understand? And now because now we use the Holy Spirit to brag to one another instead of using the Holy Spirit to change ourselves so that we can deal better with one another. We are the direct result of what the church has become today. We are to blame. We are the jobs of the. Who's that guy who was supposed to go to Nineveh? Tarashish. What's his name? Jonah. We are the Jonahs of the day. And until we come to the point of agreeing that the storm that you see raging in our country is because we have neglected the art of intercession and prayer, because we have become intellectual in our presentation of the Bible. We are impressive. We are a generation who knows how to code Greek and Hebrew, but we don't know how to leave the direct quotation that we quote. So we speak, but we don't know how to become that which we are speaking. Talk about divorce is found more in the church than is found anywhere else. You talk about
the rates are high.
Yes.
They say even in the church it's like 50% of people get married.
Then that is bad, considering that marriage is a God idea. So that is why the world looks at marriage today and they shun it. It's best to cohabitate, and
it almost seems like a swear word. I mean, if you say marriage, you're talking about like, no,
we don't want to be involved, because even the Christian people who are married don't know how to come out and tell their story and exhibit love in a proper way. If I say to you, give me 10 Christian couples that inspire you,
we'll have a whole day. We'll have to Google
but if we brought it to the secular space, you wouldn't even have to scratch your head about it. But then I think we have neglected personal responsibility where spiritual things are concerned, and then we have become, my mentor likes to say, don't grow a big head, grow a big heart. We have become too big-headed in our ability to do things and our ability to influence spaces that we forget that it's grace, that we forget that it's God. I mean, there used to be a time when you and I, we just loved the idea of speaking. It was not about how much you're going to get paid for it. And in fact, it was that love and that zeal that got you to platforms. Now you are orientated by a quotation and an invoice. You know, I can't go to certain spaces because they can't afford it. You understand? So we moved from having a relationship with the God of the gift to having a relationship with the gift, because now it has become about money more than it has become about saving people. And I think we just need to go back to the basics of things.
I don't know if you're familiar with the work of C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis, yeah,
a guy with a Narnia. So one of his books, I think it's called The Great Divorce. It tells a fictional story about, say, heaven. These people go to heaven in a way.
Yeah.
And so he says, then a certain painter went there, and then they go to heaven, and it's like they go to visit heaven for a day. When they get there, and so the painter says, "Wow, this place is so beautiful. Let's paint it. Let's go down and show the people what this place looks like." And then I think it's the angel there that says to him, "You see, that's the problem with people." He says, "You see, the first time when you painted, you used to paint. You paint because glimpses of heaven were shown to you, and then you painted. But then you painted so much, and people complimented you. Then you started falling in love with the paint, with the canvas. You started falling in love with the things that you were supposed, that helped you paint. Now you forgot why you painted in the first place." So when you say that, I can see that. I can test it. The other thing that you were touching on was this idea about platforms, like in church and stuff. You're saying, okay, so now if you're speaking, you started doing it for love. Now maybe the quotation dictates where you go, where you don't go. But then the other thing, so the other question is, when you don't get platforms, or where people compete for spaces and in church and things like that, I mean, can we then blame people for saying, well, I mean, if this is how you're going to behave, why don't I go and do corporate stuff? Because here, I must wait for so and so, I must compete with so and so. I mean, what do you think about stuff like that?
First, let's talk about the issue of being gifted. I believe that gifts are given to address a need and to address needs, and that's why gifts are given. And the problem is that a whole lot of they call themselves coverings and spiritual coverings. And all these things. People love controlling what God needs to control. And people love getting credit for what the things that God should be getting the credit out of. Any gift that is okay, there are two types of realities. There are gifted people who still need to go through a process of growing the gift and growing inside the gift. Right? And there are people who have successfully grown the gift and they have grown inside the gift. And those are the people that deserve to be on platforms, and those are the people who deserve to be given recognition. But sometimes you realize that is why you need to have a leader that has foresight and insight. A leader that can see beyond you but still have insight in what he sees. But if you have a leader that doesn't have foresight and insight, you have a leader that's threatened by the gift that you carry, and that is why they deny you spotlight. But then a father's role is to make sure that the son is presented properly. I mean, David would have not been celebrated and would have not had 10,000 women seeing David has killed his thousands, Saul has killed his 1,000, and David killed his 10,000. The idea here is that if it wasn't for Saul giving a platform, David would have not had a moment to shine,
which he regretted, though.
That's where we find ourselves today. That a father, as they call themselves, creates a platform for the son to shine. But then you forget that when the sun shines, your kingdom expands. In fact, he has just successfully done something that you were not able to do. You understand? So this is where when Malaki talks about, and he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the son and the hearts of the sons to the fathers, there has to be a direct relationship between the older generation and the new generation, because there is a grace that the older generation carries, and there's a wisdom that there's a grace that the younger generation carries, and there's a wisdom that the older generation carries. So we cannot fully function and reach what we need, the goal that we need to reach, without working with one another. So this thing of being threatened by other people's gifts and forgetting that we are complementing the body. The problem is that we all want to shine. We all want to be spoken highly of. That is why I shy away from these introductions that you and the doctor so and so and the and then you expecting, or after such a profile,
somebody must do some eloquent,
and they get the
some powerful stuff.
Nothing happens. You understand? So where gifts are concerned, we need to just understand that God is the giver of gifts, and He knows where the gift needs to operate. And then we need to learn and understand where the timing. I mean, there are days and seasons where I don't even get an invitation. And when you force, and I can tell you that if you say you have God in you, every time you ascend the podium, there are two messages. There's a message that you want to speak about, and there's a message that you should speak about. So a truly called person is caught between the two every time. So you know when it was you delivering a message, and you know when God was working through you to deliver a message. So that is when you know when you're losing it, that is when you know when you are keeping it, and that is know when you have lost it. Because now when it's you doing the job, it is skill and impression, but when it's something beyond you doing the job, there is a whole lot of conviction and impacting that happens.
Wow, I mean, you said such a mouthful. One of the things I wanted to jump on there is the story about father and sons. And about how sons take the city, and I suppose how they grew the kingdom. In our country, there are a lot of issues regarding, I suppose, parenting and fathering. I mean, so your book, Confessions of a Broken Man, does it touch on themes of fathers and fathering and sons and stuff like, what is it about broken men?
Look, we had an event yesterday, and the first thing I said was, there's a quote by Frederick Douglass that says that it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And for years I took that quote and I used it, but it was only recently that I had to revisit the quote and look at it from a different perspective. Because now what it simply says that if you have 100 men and 100 boys, you have 100 fathers and 100 boys. What Frederick is simply saying that there is no hope for this 100 men. There's hope for this 100 young boys. But now the issue here is, these boys will never become anything that they have never seen, because manhood is not theoretical, manhood is practical. What you are as a man today is something, it's because you modeled this thing from somewhere. You saw somebody doing things and you became the direct result of what is it that you took from wherever it is that you took. So now the issue of fatherhood lies in the heart of saying issues like, we need to go back to the past head, because everybody has a story to tell about a father, and unfortunately the same fathers.
We're still discussing the idea about fathers and sons, and you were on the quote with Frederick Douglass about the 100 men and 100 boys. You were giving that example. Then you were saying there's hope for the boys, but you can't become something that
you've never seen. Because in his quotation he says it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So but now the reality here is that you need to repair the broken men in order to build the strong children, because what the children become is what they see from the generation that brought them into existence. Because the question now would be posed, if you say it's easier to build strong children children, who's gonna do the building?
Yeah.
If you don't want to repair the broken man.
Yeah.
So the repairing needs to happen, because I come from a coming that has a coming from. So meaning my father comes from parents.
Yeah.
So most of the time, most of our fathers were not fathered themselves.
Yeah.
So if we go into complain when my father was not there, what if one day he stands up and says, the reason why I failed to be the father that you wanted me to be is because my own father was not there as well.
Yeah.
So now
you didn't spend so much time with me.
Yeah, and then now we go and we raise up grandfather. Grandfather says, hey, Lena, you guys are playing. I didn't even meet mine. And then that one comes and says, this is. So now you see where the blame game will go on and continue. So Kabelo Chabalala likes to say there's an expiry date to blaming the absence of your father.
Yeah.
I will not shy away from the fact that it is important for every male child to know their father.
Yeah.
But if we Christians like to quote verses like, God's ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts.
Yeah.
I remember I brought about a debate about Hagar, Sarah and Abraham.
Yes.
Because now if we talk about the issue of fatherlessness and the issue of life being God's prerogative, now you have a situation where Sarah comes to Abraham and says, no, I'll be able to give you a child. How about we formulate a plan and then we do this? Abraham buys into it, Hagar buys into it, and then because now another thing that we don't touch on that scripture when we talk about it is because there's something that prompted Sarah to come to Abraham with that solution. So it means that Abraham probably was verbally abusing Sarah and belittling her for not being able to give her, because for this woman to come and with this insane idea to salvage the situation, there must have been something that she was going through that she just couldn't take it anymore.
Or the culture.
Yes, the culture of the day.
Culture and having a son,
you understand,
to perpetuate your
seed and inheritance and all of that. So but now my issue here is the end result of the problem is that now Sarah is got the promise. Now she has her son, she has a son of her own, and comes back to say, I can't deal with Hagar and Lumana. You need to chase them away. And Abraham goes to God with the conversation that he just had with the wife and said, no, my wife says, and the response that God gives in that scenario is shocking. He says, listen to your wife. Now, ladies and gentlemen, God is agreeing to absenteeism of fatherhood to happen at that particular moment in time. Now remember, Hagar, Isaac is Abraham's son. And Abraham is Isaac's father. And then Abraham goes to God and says, I have a situation on my hand, my wife is saying this, and God says to Abraham, listen to your wife.
Chase them away.
Chase them away. And he chases them away.
But he also says, doesn't he say that I'll take care of him?
No, it is God who says, I will.
That's what, so God chase him away, but I've made a provision in a sense.
Exactly. That's my point. That life is the responsibility of God. It is God who decides who comes to this existence called life. So I refuse to think that the absenteeism of a father will degrade and demean you from becoming great if God said, I have already made provisions for you. You understand? As much as our fathers are used as vehicles to bring us about, but the direct result of purpose and life and us being here, that is God's commitment to us.
I like what you're saying, and the reason why I like that is that, I mean, because there's this idea about, I suppose, this blame thing, you know? Your father wasn't there. I mean, yes, it affected you, but how long will you sing that song? And I think you are saying something else. Have you said this to people, and how do they respond to it? I mean, I can imagine some people get upset.
Right, I have, because the reality is, and I make a follow-up example to that effect, to say, I know of stories, and we see them on the news, where they say they found a baby in a trash can somewhere after 2 days or 72 hours of being born. The child survives that horrific experience, right? And fast forward 30 years later, this child is graduated, is a doctor today, irregardless of the circumstances that he or she came into existence.
Really started.
And then now we have somebody that grows up in the comfort of having an experience of having the love of a father and the love of a mother, and you bump into them somewhere on the road sleeping, and they are nyaupe addicts and all of that. So now it goes back to saying that it really doesn't matter the environment that you are brought up in. It matters what you take as personal responsibility, because it's easier to say I could have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if my father was here, but the reality is I know I can point you to people who don't even know how their fathers look like, who never even had a shelter over their heads. We know of stories of people who worked gardening. There was one who just recently graduated, was a car guard, and just got his first degree. So all of these things show us that whom you have or whom you don't have doesn't necessarily make you. It is the choices and the commitment and the responsibility that you take upon yourself to say, irregardless of where I am, irregardless of who was not there, I'm going to take it upon myself to become great.
I think that makes sense to me. It's like, even I suppose when we're dealing with anger, I don't know if you know Viktor Frankl wrote this book called Man in Search of Meaning. A guy lost, he was in the Nazi camps, and he was a Jew in the Nazi camps, and then whilst he was there, I think he eventually became a psychiatrist. So what happened was, he says very often the trucks would come when they were in the camps, and what happened was, when the truck came to collect people would push each other so that the truck took them. And if the truck took you, you were generally not coming back. They were going to perform some experiments or something with you. And then so he says, whilst he was in that bad situation where when they threw bread in the camp, people would fight for the bread. And he says he observed something. He says sometimes the truck would come and some people would push other people and some people would volunteer. And then so he says, but why this situation is bad, why would you volunteer? When they threw bread, some people would fight for the bread, some people would share even the little that they had. And then he said, I think he called it the last of the freedoms, which is, he said, anything can be taken away from you, but the ability to choose how to respond. That nobody can take that away from you. So when you say that, I think about choice then, about, I suppose, if your father's left or the situation is bad, but you still have then the choice to decide how you want to respond to it. I suppose with men and anger, sometimes say, hey, she made me angry and I hit her. But I think that we choose. If I try and upset you, I think you have to decide how you want to respond to my upsetting you. I think of David, whilst I think Absalom had taken over the kingdom temporarily. As he was marching, I think the Bible says somebody came and he was insulting him, and then when his soldiers wanted to run him through and stab him, David says, hey, wait, perhaps the Lord wants to bless me. So I think we do choose how we respond, and so I can see what you're saying about, so then we must decide, a person must decide how they want to then respond. But what's your book about? Confessions of a Broken Man. As we are in this talking about men and how we respond to things. So what inspired the book? Why did you write the book? What is it about?
What inspired the book is me.
Is your life, something you went through or something you observed?
Yes, because like I said, I grew up in church. I started preaching when I was 18 years old. And that's like you are behind the pulpit.
So when you were marinated,
parents look at you as that boy whom should marry their daughters and stuff like that. But I define men in 3 levels: the boy level, the man level, and the gift level. And most of the time we are not in control of the gift level. Neither are we in control of the boy level, because the boy level is when the Bible says male and female created he them. When God put Adam in the garden, he put a male, he put a boy in there, because the idea of the garden was to develop a man out of Adam. So that is why the first thing that he gives him is to cultivate, be responsible, take care of this, name the animals and all of that. It's a discovery phase where now you need to grow, and that's why at a particular point in that verse in Genesis chapter 1, he says it's not good for a man to be alone. Now he no longer refers to Adam as a male, he refers to him as a man, because now he has undergone the building process, the development process needed for him to grow from being a boy to being a man. But the interesting thing about this is that you don't leave the boy, because inside every boy there's a man, and inside every man there's a boy. So it's like the container grows and the boy gets inside the man, and the man gets out of the boy, something like that. But the idea here is that for as long as you can be 80 years old and the levels will still be there. There's still the boy in you. You are a grandfather, but you still have some boyish tendencies in you. And the man level is the place of vision. It's where now you cultivate vision, you understand purpose, you know why you are here. And a lot of men have missed that stage. That is why we're still operating from the boy level. But remember, the gift is controlled and is in the hands of God, and the gift is given for the purpose of addressing a need. So most of the time the gift will always outrun the man who is gifted, because it's not about you, it's about the people that the gift needs to service. So now when Confessions of a Broken Man was written, it was because at the boy level I was already exposed to my level of giftedness.
I see.
So I could preach and I could do things on the pulpit that I was not ready to maintain. So my maintenance level of the aftermath of the gift was very low.
I see.
So now the gift will always expose you when the Bible says your gift will
make room
for you.
It makes other rooms.
It's just that it's not specific on what kind of rooms these rooms are. But we just know that it will place you before great men. But at the same length and breadth, it will also attract women who love men who are placed before great men,
like ministers and DJs
and women are designed. Women are naturally attracted to power. Women are naturally attracted to a sense of direction and leadership and structure. So there's nothing wrong with them. That's how they are designed. So now the issue here is that the boy is shining and the spotlight is on the gift, but the person carrying the gift is the boy.
It's not ready.
It's not the man in
the character.
I was not trained to say no. I was not trained.
So I mean, did you have some issues? Did you have to balance some things there?
No. Now this is where we don't get education. You are taught to serve God. You are taught to be sold out for God. You are taught to go out of your way to minister and to serve and to do all of these things, but you are not taught to handle yourself whilst handling the gift. You understand? So now when when fame comes, I mean overnight, because people start hearing of you, people start knowing you.
So what happened? People start calling you, people leaving you numbers.
Now remember that every gifted person is a human being, and every human being has their own proclivities, your weaknesses. Now when your gift shines on you and presents you and a whole lot of attention is given to you, now the women that you would fantasize about are the ones inboxing you. The roles have changed.
DM you.
The roles have changed, and now you realize that the first time I first started dating, and this is the first thing I opened with in the book, is I started dating not because of love. I started dating because I needed to be affirmed. I was that guy that wanted to be told, hey man, you're smart. Hey man, you're handsome. Hey man, baby, and then they called it love, but for me it was just surviving emotions that I did not deal with.
You wanted to know something.
I wanted to know things from people that I was supposed to affirm myself about. out.
Yeah.
And I blamed my dad for not telling me that I'm proud of you. I blamed him for not telling me that I love you and all of that. So I sought out an anesthetic kind of a syndrome. Yeah,
makes perfect sense, because that's what men need.
So now you are up there, gift wise, but from an emotional handling situation you are down here.
So what would they say? Man of God, you preach nicely. I mean, so what do you say to ask to see the man of God for romantic reasons? I mean, so I'm saying, what are the approaches like? Is it, no, you preach very nicely? It is what I've learned. Let me buy you lunch.
What I've learned about women is women are not afraid of the calling.
Yeah.
In fact, they are attracted by the calling.
But I mean, would they tell you? Would somebody be direct to you and say, was it?
There are those who are smart in their approach.
Yeah.
No, I heard you on radio.
Yeah.
I loved what you were saying. It was like you were speaking about me.
Yeah.
I saw you on TV.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
But remember that where you give attention, that's where you get attached most.
Yeah.
So they start off innocent, but everyone has a motive.
Yeah.
That high in that inbox always has a motive.
Yeah.
It's not innocent. There is no innocent hello. There's always a motive.
But I mean, if you had to teach then some some young minister coming, and where's the line? How do you know that, okay, now this is not somebody responding to a message that spoke to them? How would, if you had to teach someone, say, listen, you must watch out for, when you see this thing, you must be careful of.
Most of the time, people who start excelling in their calling are people who never really learned, who never got attention while they were growing up.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to separate, because now they saw other men get attention when they were growing up.
Yeah.
Now the gift is working for you. You're getting, because of the gift, you're getting attention.
Yeah.
But now you need to realize that women are awesome and beautiful and wonderful, but you can't have them all.
Yeah. My mother used to say women are like flowers. When you walk in the forest, you see one, you say, wow, this is beautiful. Then when you look to the left, hey, here's another one. Then there's another one. You never finish.
You never. There's a verse, go I know we like, go Proverbs 31.
Yeah.
I know we like concentrating
nice parts,
on the virtuous woman. But the first verse in Proverbs 31 is Lamuel's mother giving instructions
to the son.
Oh, Lamuel, son of my womb.
Yes.
Do not give your energy to women.
Yes.
They have destroyed many kings.
Yes. And it's been skipped a lot.
You concentrate on who can find the virtuous woman. But the reality here is that I learned that a man that is going to be great needs to first find relationship stability.
Yeah.
Because outside of relationship stability, you find yourself unstable in a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
And then it's nice getting attention. I don't want to lie to you. When I first got attention, I misused the gift, and then I forgot that some of them are attracted to you, not you.
To what you carry. Yes.
And so the man needs to differentiate between your calling, the man you are, and this boyness, because this boy is a problem, because he's always horny and always thinking about all of these things. So the idea here is to differentiate. Why are they attracted to me? Is it me
or is it this thing that they see?
You understand? Yeah. So that is why now you find the devil cannot kill the gift, cannot take it away from you, but he can make it difficult for you to operate in the gift because of the many scandals and the many skeletons in your closet.
Yeah, because your testimony then becomes a problem.
And plus you always stand, I mean, if you were to get a slot on TV to host a show somewhere, chances are it won't even air for 3 months without people coming, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you'll be cut off. And I think that's part of the reason why many people are not excelling in their gifts, because God knows immediately I elevate you to this point and everyone sees you, everything you've been doing from your boy level is gonna come up.
Going to jump up.
Yeah, so we need to find a balance between your gift, the boy, and the man in you.
Wonderful stuff. I mean, and when did you realize that, okay, I need to go back, or I think I've missed the way, like I've missed the work in this area?
Yeah, if for argument's sake, if you have dated 20 women and they all leave,
yeah,
you're
not getting the point.
Yeah, and you're not getting the point, and fail to realize that the common denominator is you.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 people cannot be wrong.
Yeah. So you must look at you.
20 people cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
And for me, it was an issue of learning to be a son to my father, so that I can meet him halfway where this father and son relationship is concerned. That was the first thing. Number two, I had to realize that I can't find me in sex, I can't find me in alcohol, and I can't find me in the next woman. I can sleep with as many women as I want, but if I'm still feeling the way I felt when they leave, I mean, I was at a point in my life where I couldn't be alone. I just couldn't be alone, because I didn't like how I felt when I was alone. I did not love the realities of me that I have to come face to face with when I was alone. So now this causes you to find the next body. You just want the body next to you.
A warm body.
Yeah, or it doesn't matter whether it's cold or hot.
There's somebody.
As long as there's somebody next to you. And now those are the things that make you realize that something is really wrong with you. And because now when these people attach themselves to you, they see a future where now you're just surviving a moment, you're just surviving a night, you're just surviving a weekend, you're just surviving a feeling. And now they become your sick beds indirectly, because we only go to hospital when we are sick, and as soon as you are fine, they discharge you. You no longer need the sick bed. And that is why a lot of women are broken and hurt, because they attached hope on top of somebody who saw no hope. Because I just attached myself to you so that I can survive the night. I didn't want to be alone tonight, so I called you. But the problem is that when you call them, you use the language of love, and they think it's love. And that is why I realized I've caused a lot of damage. I mean, I'm articulate, I can put words together, and women are creatures of hearing and emotion. So whatever they hear sparks the right emotion. So they get attached to you, and they will do just about anything for you. And you forget to mention that you are just there's a chapter there I say I dated you for survival and not love. It was just I needed a roof over my head at that point. I couldn't be by myself at that point. I couldn't buy myself data at that point. You had the means and the resources, but I said it. I spoke the languages of love, but I was not in love. That is why as soon as I could take care of me, I no longer needed your taking care of. So now she gets hurt because she starts calculating what it cost
everything she put in
for her to be with you. That is why they will say things, Mara, how can Leroy do this to me? How can he do? The reason why they say that is because now they start calculating how much it cost them to be with you.
I see.
But you were not even emotionally involved. You were just physically involved and selfishly involved,
making moves.
And those are my confessions.
I see. Wow, that's very interesting stuff. And going back, I mean, were you rejected? I mean, I'm just thinking now when here's the thing. So sometimes, like when I see somebody who at some point loved God and had a passion for the gospel and loved God's people, and then they rise up, right? And then everybody, people cheer for them, people get jealous, but people generally, you want to see somebody winning, and then they say fall from grace. And I see that instead of being caught, people kind of they step back and you get shunned, and I actually feel sad for people who go in and preach the gospel, and then there's some story about them. I just feel as if now, like who comes and supports you. So what was your response? And the people who read your book that you've heard, have you had any feedback, and have you had any support? Did people try and reject you, or how did that happen that you got back and started now doing the right things?
I think hypocrisy is best defined. If you want a true definition of hypocrisy, don't go to Oxford Dictionary or whatever means or source that you use to find definition. Go to the church. And because most of the time people don't care how you feel, they care how you make them feel. And that's the sad reality of it. I mean, my friend is a comedian, and we were laughing. He said something to me the other day. He said, people laugh. People love the idea of us making them laugh. But sometimes no one makes us laugh because we go through the most. But you have to still come up with material to make people laugh. So the reality here is that I think I got liberated the day I knew that when I read Psalms 51, against you and you only have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight, so that you can be proved right when you judge. It was David's prayer after he had slept with Uriah's wife, and that automatically liberated me to say, Leroy, yes, we might offend people because they had expectations for us.
But the greatest
offense that we commit is against God. And if He can forgive you, because what that does is it allows you to forgive yourself for sinning against a God that has already forgiven you. So most of the time, the church makes you feel like God's forgiveness is predicated on their behavior. So sometimes we overly crucify ourselves until I am not forgiven. So you work overtime, triple time, trying to earn a forgiveness that you have already gotten. And then knowing and understanding that God is omniscient, and the time I was shocked or I could do something like this, He already knew that I was capable of doing this.
Do you think it was important, sorry to interrupt, do you think it was important for you to know that you can do that? Because I think sometimes to be effective in ministry, a person has to know that they can actually turn their back on God. You can actually pull a Peter. And I think a lot of people who they don't know, people think they are angels, and you people get surprised by what they can do. And I think for you to be effective, a person must know, but it helps one to know the how far you can go from God if you didn't take care of that relationship. But I don't know what you think about that, because I think if you don't know that, then you might find yourself being too confident, you do things you never thought you would do because you didn't conceive that. But maybe there's a quote. The quote says, "Nothing human should be foreign to me." So when you see, say, ministers falling, people prostituting themselves, people committing crimes, a person should never get to a point where they think, "But I'll never do that." So you don't know if the right set of circumstances were brought to bear on you, you might do that. So I don't know what you think about that, though.
There's a philosopher called Carl Jung. He writes in one of his articles, he calls it the shadow, and he says that inside every human being there's a capacity to be evil, and there's a capacity to be good. And that is why I learned that when somebody who was influential or somebody that I deem to be influential does something wrong, I'm not quick to say, I will never, no, and then so. I mean, if David lived in our time and he had a church,
there we go,
and he slept with,
it was splitting,
he would have died. That church wouldn't be.
No, it was splitting.
So I think that we underestimate the love of God, and we underestimate God's sovereignty, and we underestimate God's omniscience. And then when we talk about the story of Adam and Eve and them eating, God was still omniscient. God was still omnipresent. God was still omnipotent at that time. So when they eat what they ate at that particular moment in time, the beauty of the story is that He still came to visit them in the cool of the day after the activity had happened. So what liberates me is that God chose to love me. He was not obligated to love me, and He doesn't love me from feeling, because if God's love for me is feeling orientated, God would have killed me a long time ago. And there is nothing that I'm going to do 5 minutes from now, tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, if I'm still going to be alive, that is going to shock God. The problem with people and human beings is that we think we have the capacity to shock God. That is why we can sing songs like this is just celebration song. I don't know
it.
It says Halimpona. something. I listened to that song and
you had a problem with the lyrics.
And the lyrics are wrong, because now what you are saying is that you are saying that you have a God that did not see this coming.
Yeah.
Now he has to see so that in the morning he might have an answer.
Yeah, because you caught him.
So because you caught him off guard, and now you did something that he was not prepared for.
Yeah.
I want to show you that God, when you call him Alpha and Omega, it means that he knew the beginning from the end for sure.
Yeah.
There is nothing about you that's going to take him by surprise, and that will liberate you, because that helps you to forgive yourself, and that helps you to receive forgiveness. A lot of people are forgiven, but they have not come to the place of forgiving themselves, and that is why they are still waiting for affirmation from others to say, yeah, no, it's fine. I think you can. That's why there are pastors who have propagated this behavior in killing gifts that could have saved the nation, because a young man impregnated somebody, went and sought forgiveness from God, but the church is still treating him, like, now you want to work triple time overtime to make sure that you are forgiven by people.
What do you think about depressed ministers or depression in the church?
My mentor says that your level of output must have so meaning if you preach 4 messages a week, you must have the same level of input. Your output must determine your input. So a lot of people give more than they receive, and that is why they burn out. It's what you call spiritual burnout, that you have taken on a lot, and you don't have a place where you offload. The Bible says he who refreshes others will be himself refreshed also. So if you are a mentor to others, you need mentors to you. If you are a counselor to others, you need a counselor yourself. If you are a voice of reason to others, you need a voice of reason yourself, because you can't be everything to everyone. And if you are going to change people's lives, you need somebody that influences the changes in your lives. So a lot of us are like Icelands. We are there, and then we want to enforce change in people's life, but it will never happen. I mean, if you have read 30 books, reality is you can come up with 2 messages from the 30 books that you've read. So there's a quote called the Red Queen effect. They say that for the queen to remain in one place, she must wake up and do 10 times more what she did yesterday. So for you to remain relevant in our generation, you must, if you read 4 books, if you read 4 books when you were 25, then you must double the intake, because now you have to understand that the pressure of attack is the same as the pressure of wanting to make impact. And just because the times have changed, our approach to things and our approach to inspiring and impacting people's life needs to start with us. People see you on stage for 20 minutes, but they have no idea that
what it took to get you there.
It took almost a lifetime for you to come up with that message. And the reality is that I think the gifted people need to start talking about what it costs and what it takes for them to do what they do. And we need to come to the place of being honest and transparent to say, yes, I am able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I struggle from 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's why I love that show, Preachers of LA, because as much as it was crucified and shunned upon, but it allows you to have an insight of what it means to be a man of God.
So you could see them for who they are. Man, lovely, man. This is good. So what haven't I asked you? What one thing do you wanna share?
I don't know, man.
Any parting shots?
But it would be that no one is responsible for you, and I don't think I can ever say this enough. The fact that parents brought you to this world doesn't necessarily mean that they are responsible for you. I remember when I used to complain about my father and this guy stopped me and he said to me, "Listen, you must understand and know that the greatest responsibility that God gave your father was to carry you in his loins and make a deposit inside your mother. And the greatest responsibility that your mother had to carry at that point was to make sure that you have a safe arrival. And if these 2 people decide and choose to not want anything to do with you after that, before the eyes of God, they have done everything that God deemed of them to be and do. So the reality here is that no one is responsible for you. And I know that we want to find sources and people and stuff to blame. But the reality here is, for you to become all that you need to become, you need you. Blessed are you if you have support. Blessed are you if you have people who come to your aid. Blessed are you if you have people who come visit you when you are in hospital. But for most, they will never experience what it means to be supported and loved to that degree. That is why, in the absence or the abundance of support, you still need you more than you need anyone else.
Sobering and insightful stuff. Mr. Leroy Tau, thank you very much. I mean, I quite enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much, man. I hope everything you do, you just grow from strength to strength. May you do the things that you're supposed to do.
Thank you, sir.
Great stuff, eh?